in recent times, it seems Anthony Joshua has taken a completely different career trajectory. And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, you look at the guy, he is now a bit of a gangster as opposed to before. Now, let me give you a little backstory to sort of understand what is going on. And for those that have listened to my content for a long time, I have mentioned this about Anthony Joshua in relationship to Tyson Fury's downfall, in terms of Anthony Joshua becoming a unified champion after Tyson Fury dropped his belts. And what exactly is that? Well, Tyson Fury was the politically incorrect champion, and now that he's regained his titles after the Deontay Wilder fights, he still is that guy. He still is very unhinged, shoots off the mouth, doesn't really have any filter. Whereas with Anthony Joshua, it was a little bit different. Anthony Joshua was in this circle of mainstream appeal. So because of that, he had to act a certain way. Well, now fast forward a couple of years later, no longer the unified champion, no longer, let's say, the bigger star that he was back then in terms of being able to fill up stadium fights, right? I mean, it sort of indicates those signs, considering the fact that he went from having stadium fights to having fights in the O2 Arena, which is not a knock, but O2 Arena fights, if you're a big boxer like Anthony Joshua, those are prospect fights. Those are, at best, UFC fight nights, even though UFC's held some pretty big events there. Nonetheless, a downgrade. So when you're going through all that, it's a little bit easier to put your mind in the gutter, to put your mind at a situation where I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I don't care what this guy says or this guy and this and that. Imagine, try to put it like this in this particular scenario, right? Let's say you had a corporate job, and the corporate job really absolutely requires you to be clean cut and toe to line. In other words, you're not going around saying controversial things, you're not saying offensive things, and you're playing the inclusive game, okay? And maybe you're not that guy. Maybe you're a guy that doesn't have a filter. I know a lot of guys that are like that, right? That have corporate jobs. They had a corporate job, and every time they punch that clock, they got to play this role of trying to be somebody they're not. And then when they clock out and they're at home, they're completely different people. I think we're all like this to a certain degree, right? For the most part. Now imagine, let's say you have two different scenarios where you're Donald Trump or you're a person that just got fired from this job. What do they have in common? The person that got fired and Donald Trump. What do they all have in common? What they have in common is they don't care. They have all the money in the world. They don't need money from you. They don't need to appease you or any corporation of that matter. And they're going to say what they want. This is now Anthony Joshua in a nutshell. Anthony Joshua is not only Donald Trump, meaning that he has FU money, but he's also that guy that got fired from that corporate job, and now he can say whatever he wants after years of suppression. So this is the reality of Anthony Joshua as we know it today. Also, let's take into consideration, Anthony Joshua is also a person that comes from a very violent hood of Watford, England, which, by the way, is a city right outside of London, within the London city limits, that has stabbings, has shootings, has gang warfares, and drug dealing, prostitution, and maybe even human trafficking to a certain degree. You come from a place like this, it ain't nothing nice, okay? You'll see a little bit of his true personality when, let's say, he got confronted by those college students, right? Or he actually confronted these college students that were shouting a bunch of nonsense at him from a balcony. And lo and behold, guess what Anthony Joshua does? Knock, 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 knock. Who's there? It's Anthony Joshua. You're talking smack about me? Let's take this outside, or let's settle this right here. And he told him, hey, listen, I don't know what you guys are seeing on the media, but I'm not all about that hype. And I think I know exactly what Anthony Joshua means when he said that to those kids. What exactly does he mean by that? Is this. Just because you see me acting politically correct on TV, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to punch your lights out in public or in private. And this is Anthony Joshua in a nutshell. So now, you go into the press conference, right? Anthony Joshua was confronted by his former rival, a guy that he was supposed to fight, Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller couldn't make it because he tested positive, and in comes Andy Ruiz, and you guys know the rest of the history, especially for my boxing historian fans out there, and not only that, people that understand boxing from its recent history, because that was just not too long ago, around 2019, that Andy Ruiz fight happened. So fast forward, 2023, here we are. Now they're in a press conference in the same place again in London, this time taking on different opponents. Great. So, what is great about this? The difference between Anthony Joshua now and then, guess what? He's going to talk back to you. He's not suppressed anymore. If you remember, the way that Jarrell Miller went after Anthony Joshua back in the 2019 presser, the guy didn't want to really say anything back to Jarrell Miller. He wanted to take the high road. You know, this is the thing that a lot of people that don't come from, let's say, the hood, or people that come from the street culture, or people that come from an honor culture of any kind, they don't understand that you sometimes just can't be the bigger person. Could you try being the bigger person if, let's say, God forbid, any of you get locked up and now you're in jail? Now you have to be in a situation where you have to play the tough guy role, because if you don't, you're going to get eaten alive by the killers that are in jail, the predators, the vultures, all these people that, well, will take advantage of you in a drop of a hat. You can't. So you got to talk back. And guess what Anthony Joshua did in that press conference? He talked back and did exactly what Anthony Joshua normally does when the cameras aren't off, when the cameras aren't on, when the cameras are not around, when he's not facing the media, when he's not shooting commercial advertisements. And also, we're seeing the AJ that we knew him to be before he was AJ the gold medalist. This is the real AJ, whether you like it or not. In my personal opinion, I like it. Not only do I like it, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's genius. I also think it's a new evolution in his character, which is something you have to do. Everyone that has a gimmick, that has a shtick, or even some kind of persona, let me tell you, it's a testament that over time, you have to evolve your character. Colby Covington, he was a guy that was the plain Jane wrestler. All of a sudden, he evolved into this Trump MAGA guy. Okay, so now Trump is slowly losing relevancy in the world stage as a world leader. Now you have to evolve. Now you have to be Colby Covington, the guy that is some sort of a Ric Flair character of some sort. And what do I mean by that? Styling, profiling, limousine riding, all of that, right? He evolved his character. Same thing with Henry Cejudo. He evolved his character, whether you think it's cringe or not. Over time, you have to change. Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Before he was Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who was he? He was the immortal Hulk Hogan, the American hero Hulk Hogan. And then after that died down, the 80s, where it was just all about Reagan and America is great, America is the all-powerful mighty of the world, and America is the beacon of good of the world. In came the 90s. The era of Bill Clinton scandals, the era of political change, and, well, whatever you want to describe the 90s in comparison to the 80s. But lo and behold, what happened? He became Hollywood Hogan, because this is what you do when you evolve your character over time. And Anthony Joshua is no different than Hulk Hogan becoming the red and yellow good guy, now becoming the OG gangster gang leader of the NWO. Or in Anthony Joshua's case, that top boy of London that we've always known him to be. Don't forget to like and subscribe so I can become the biggest top boy of combat sports YouTube. Inshallah.